Okay, good morning and welcome to chapter 10 of The Living Marriage. We are in the middle of talking about the concept of Piyus. I was unsure when I posted chapter 9, had a title on YouTube, how to title it. I wrote Piyus. We're talking about the word Piyus. Piyus generally means, if you translate it to English, basically means foreplay. It also includes verbal foreplay and includes physical foreplay. For some reason, the author always seems to think of Piyus as verbally, barely mention anything about physical, but I think the next chapter is actually physical Piyus. So this chapter is dedicated to the length of Piyus, even though he brought a story at the end of the last chapter where he says he's frequently asked, how long should Piyus be? And he says, I can't give you an answer. It has to be natural. He felt the reason that he wants to tell you about the length of Piyus, and which he made clear already. There is no length of Piyus. It takes, as he says, how much time he starts the chapter. How much time does Piyus require? The answer is very simple. As long as it takes! Exclamation point. How long does it take to build a house? It takes as long as it takes until it is finished. So too, Piyus before intimacy isn't measured by the clock. It takes as long as is necessary for the couple to be emotionally and physically prepared for their holy union. He gives an interesting mashal, actually. I like this mashal. He says this could be compared to one who's driving to a city 2 hours away. After driving for 2 hours on the dot, the driver pulls over to the side of the highway and announces to the passengers they have arrived, even though they didn't actually get there because there was traffic. Just as one who is traveling to a destination does not arrive until he arrives, independent of the time the trip is supposed to take, so too, Piyus is not complete until the couple has arrived at a place where they can both rejoice in their unity physically and emotionally. So, if you're not ready, well, the man is always ready. If the woman's not ready, it's not a good enough Piyus. Now, the word Piyus, right, in other contexts in the Gemara in Hebrew, merely means Piyus to be added, so when you hurt someone, when you embarrass somebody, you verbally hurt them, you insult somebody. So Piyus means basically that they're appeased, right? The Gemara uses that a lot. You have to mafaya someone for Yom Kippur for if you hurt them, if you stole from them or you verbally insulted them, you have to mafaya, you have to appease them. Piyus does not mean to make you happy, to make the woman enjoy the union. That's not what the word Piyus means. Now, if you just translate foreplay in English, so foreplay generally means that you get to the point where you both enjoy it. The problem is the author confuses these two, which I think is a big problem, and I will discuss a very fundamental difference between the actual word Piyus means that she is appeased, meaning she agrees to let you be together with her, even though she's not enjoying it. A second level is where you get to the level in Piyus or foreplay where she'd actually enjoy, she's ready to enjoy it, right? He confuses the two. Now, he brings a couple of chazals over here. I think it's worthwhile to look into these chazals a little bit. He brings from a Gemara in Eruvin. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Ravasi also Adam Sheyakov is Ishtal Dvar Mitzvah. You can't force your wife to Dvar Mitzvah, to be together for marital relations. If you force your wife to be together, you'll have children that are not good, or OTD, off the derech, or OCD. I don't know, whichever one is worse according to you. So at the end of the day, you're gonna have children that are not great children. There's another Gemara, the Gemara in Psachim on Daf Mem Tet. Tanya Hayir Meir Omer Kol Amisi Bito Lam Aretz Kilu Kosa Umenichel Fnei Ari. Anyone who marries his daughter to Am Aretz is like he's tying her in front of a lion. Ma Ari Doris V'Ochel V'Nol Boshes Ponim. Just like a lion tramples, he's not embarrassed. Af Am Aretz Make Uboel V'Nol Boshes Ponim. He hits his wife. He physically beats her. He has no Boshes Ponim. And Tosfos over there, Perish Rabbeinu Tam. What does this mayor mean? A lion, right? He tramples on the animal and starts eating it while it's alive. So to a man, he's boel. He consummates the end of the union, right? He ends the union before she's mafuyas, before she is appeased. So. And then we have also the beginning we've talked about in the Sefer, the Gemara in Adarim on Daf Chaf, where the Gemara says that there's 9 forbidden unions. One of them is B'nai Anusa, where she's raped. So, what is the distinction between all these three? There's 3 different Gemaras, right? What's the distinction between all these things? So, I think obviously, if you rape a woman is you force it on her, and she doesn't want to do it at all, and she says no, no, and she really says no, like she's really not in the mood, or she really hates you, and she wants to get divorced from you, and you do it anyway. So that's anusa, that's rape, and that's really a bad thing. I think Gemara says in the Dharm. I believe this Gemara in Eruvin over here, um, he says, the author says, both the Gemara in Eruvin and the Gemara in Pesachim are saying the same thing. That's what he says. He says they're saying the same thing. It's basically that she's saying yes, she agrees to be together. Like he says over here, he quotes, however, if the wife says she would like to help her husband, being together will cause her emotional difficulty, the situation is absolutely forbidden. Right? Even if she says yes, you get a clear yes out of her. Sometimes a man wants to be together. Let's read this, because he writes over here an important qualification. Piyus does not always need to be perfect. Rather, it requires that the wife is in a state where she can embrace her husband's union with her whole heart. I once asked Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, what happens if a couple decides that they want to have intimacy on a certain night? For example, the husband feels like he has a strong desire, which is difficult for him to control. Okay, pretty common. And the wife had a difficult day at work. Now, what he doesn't tell you is that women really always want to be together. Also, they just won't say that. But a man, if he wants to, he'll say it. But men don't always want to be together. Women always want to be together if they like their husband. So, and the wife had a difficult day, but doesn't mean you have to do it. Just telling you the reality. And the wife had a difficult day at work and feels like it would be very difficult for her to become emotionally prepared for the union. But she would still be happy to be with her husband if he feels the need. Rav Auerbach explained that if the wife truly wants to be with her husband, even if the primary goal is to help him, this means that she is in a state of Piyus. This does not mean that in such a case, the husband can skip the entire process of Piyus and trample her like a lion. Rather, he needs to speak to her heart as much as possible and bring her to the point where she's emotionally ready to embrace her union as much as possible, even if she might not connect to it on the highest level of unification. However, if the wife says, this is what I read before, she would like to help her husband, but being together will cause her emotional difficulty, this situation is absolutely forbidden. Unacceptable intimacy that's compared to hitting one's wife is referring to a situation where a wife desires her husband's intimacy and expects him to bring her to a state in which she can enjoy their union. If in the end he ignores her needs, leaving her in a state of frustration in which she feels as if she has been used by him, it's as if he ate her whole life. Now he puts together a lot in this paragraph, this couple of paragraphs over here. So I just want to make it clear my opinion about what's going on over here. He just, basically lumps together everything, all these chazals, and says, if she's mafuyas, and he includes that meaning she's ready to enjoy this, right? Then it's okay. Rosh Hashanah says if she's emotionally ready to do it, she just might not have wanted to in the beginning, right? If the wife truly wants to be with her husband, even the primary goal is to help, she has to arouse herself that she wants to not only be with him, but to enjoy it. I think that's what he's saying. Piyus doesn't mean just she's appeased. It means she's enjoying it. If she's going to enjoy it, yeah, and even if she doesn't want it in the beginning, you have to bring her to a state where she'll enjoy it. That's what he says. She has to enjoy the union. If she doesn't enjoy the union, then you're doing an avera. It's like you're hitting your wife, like beating your wife. And like the Gemara in Eruvin says, you're going to have children. They're not mehuganim. Maybe they won't be as bad as the Gemara in the Dharam, but they'll be pretty bad. They'll go off the derech or something like that. I don't know. So they'll be bad children. They'll be hard children to deal with. So he lumps really everything together. But I think, because I'm a lamdan, because I gave a lot of Yidin shiurim, I think it's very clear that there's a lot of distinctions over here. The Gemara in the Dharam is talking about a case where you rape her, forced it on her. Then there's the Gemara in Eruvin, which talks about this is an avera. It's an avera to do. Now it's not called raping her. It's basically where she says yes, right? Sometimes a woman will say yes, but she feels forced. She feels afraid of her husband, and her yes is really a no. Sometimes a yes is really a no. Sometimes people say things, agree to things they don't really want to agree to it. Like the Gemara says in Baba Metzia that, right? You're over on Bal Sach Lo Sach mode. Even if you pay the guy the fair market value for whatever he's selling something, he didn't want to sell it to you, right? He didn't want to sell it to you. You gave him money, but you took it against his will. So the same thing over here. A woman agrees. She says her words are, yes, it's okay. I'm your wife. You don't spend any time with me. You don't care about me, but I'm afraid of you. You earn enough money, or you're engaged in religious pursuits, and we're going to both get Olam Haba. It's okay. But she doesn't really mean it. That's the Gemara Eruvin. The Gemara Eruvin is saying that's basically, like the Gemara says, a lot of kuf. You're forcing her because you're forcing her based on either there's pressure in the house, or you're gaslighting her. You're telling her things about Olam Haba, or I'm not saying, how do you know what's going to be in Olam Haba? Or because of your stature, you're bringing in so much money to the house. She doesn't want to do it, so that's the Gemara Eruvin. That you'll have children that will cause you difficulty raising them. Then there's the Gemara in Pesachim, which is an Amaretz. There's no Isra to be an Amaretz. It's not a terrible thing to be an Amaretz. In fact, Amaretz is a great thing. We should also learn Torah. If Amaretz is someone who doesn't know anything about Torah, Talmud Chacham doesn't know something about the world, or anything about the world. You gotta have both. You gotta be Talmud Chacham and Amaretz. Again, Talmud Chacham is a student of Chachma. He's like a child who's learning wisdom, but he hasn't grown up because he doesn't know about the world. When you learn about the world, combining with the Torah of your youth, that's when you grow up. So that's the difference between a man and a boy. So as long as you're just learning Torah and you're just Talmud Chacham and you're ignoring the world, you're still a little child. You'll only become an adult when you learn about the world and you take that into perspective also. So, but if you're just an Amaretz, right, and you don't care about the Torah, you don't have good manners, you'll be like a lion. Now a lion, it says it's not a good thing to marry your daughter to an Amaretz because Mako Bo. I think that this over here is talking about a case of Piyus over here. My explanation of Piyus is that she's appeased, meaning that she says yes, like the case he's talking about. The man wants it. The woman's not in the mood. She's very tired. She worked. She was dealing with the kids a lot. It was very hard for her. So she's not in the mood. But she says yes for her husband. So in that case, that's talking about where she says yes. And if she says yes, I agree. You're allowed to be together with her, even if she's not going to enjoy it. But you have to do your at least enough Piyus foreplay beforehand in order to make sure that she doesn't feel cheap or used, right? Because if she feels cheap or used, like you mentioned, cheap or used, so then you're an Amaretz who ignorant of the Torah. You don't care, like a lion over there, who you don't, right? She says yes, she honestly wants to do it, but you still have the minimal requirement of making her appeased, right? At least it's not a negative experience for her. Not that she should enjoy it, but she's probably not going to enjoy it. She's very tired, and there's a very big difference between getting a woman to the point where she's not going to feel used. Let's say you do foreplay for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. She's not going to feel used. But if you really want to make an enjoyable experience for your wife, it doesn't take more than 20 minutes. Sometimes it can take longer. It depends how good you are in the bedroom. So if you're good in the bedroom, it can take a lot quicker. If you're not good in the bedroom, it can take a lot longer. But that, to get a state where you're Makayim Sipukeha of the Ksuba, where you fill her Mizonos, which is either the Rabbanon or the Oraisa, and the Ksuba, which is an obligation in the Ksuba, and you owe that to her at least maybe twice a week, or maybe more than twice a week, depending on how much she needs it, right? It's not really based on Ona. Ona is a right for the man, as I explained. Sipu Kaichi and Mizuno Saichi, you promise in the Ksuba. Part of the Ksuba is to guarantee her happiness and enjoyment, and then you have to provide for her. And that's causing her to enjoy herself. So there are 4 different levels, right? Come raping or forcing on her. Then there's when she says yes, but she means no. And then there's when she says yes, but you didn't give her the proper enough that she should be appeased, it shouldn't feel cheap or used. And then there's a 4th level of her enjoying it. I believe those are 4 important levels. The last 2 could be used, meaning you could always use the yes, even in a case where she doesn't want to do it, as long as you make her not feel cheap or used. I mentioned sometimes if you have a good communication with your wife, you could actually do it where she won't feel cheap or used, even if you don't have the proper amount of foreplay, as long as the number of weeks during the time you have the proper amount of foreplay. If you talk about it beforehand and you're cognizant of the concept of orgasm, which she does not discuss in the previous chapter, but I discussed in the previous chapter. I want to end the chapter with a letter that he brings from the Stipler. The Stipler brings a long letter over here. I'm not going to read the entire letter. um, he talks about basically what I think a lot of people's concept of Haredi Jews are, or maybe of all Jews. If you're ignorant, you lump all Jews together. You're a secular person, you're a non-Jewish person, you lump all Jews together, or you assume all Jews are like Hasidim, have horns on their head. A big misconception a lot of people have is that people are together, they take a talus, and they take a sheet and they make a hole in it, and that's how they're together. Or I read a novel once or something like that. I think it was a Jew who grew up, religious or observant, and he left that path, and he wrote a book about Hasidim. And I don't know if this is more prevalent in the Hasidic world than the non-Hasidic world, but there are definitely people out there who believe that the idea of being together with your wife is a base desire. It's a lustful thing, and you should avoid it as much as possible for a man. And they do it very quickly. It'll be over in 2 minutes, literally. There's no Piyus, there's no foreplay. You just go ahead and do it. And he talks about that. He says, he just goes, they have an intercourse, then he leaves her. The husband thinks that he's on the level of angels. He didn't actually do precious and remove himself from the taiva, from the loss. He thinks he did a great thing. His wife didn't benefit at all from this. She's in pain and she's embarrassed. And she'll cry in private. She'll cry a lot. Women cry a lot in general, but if you see your wife crying a lot, even if it's not related to the bedroom, you see your wife crying in general, it's a sign that you have problems in the bedroom. As I mentioned, the whole concept of marriage is the bedroom. So if she's crying a lot, even not about the bedroom, there's problems in the bedroom. And he says, the Gemara says that you have to be careful about your wife because she cries very easily, and when a person cries, Hashem takes notice, and it could be bad for not just for your gashmias, but for your ruchnias also. So he talks about a very terrible thing. The Stipler is talking about, which is maybe a stereotype of Hasidim. I don't know what percentage of people actually do this. I venture to say there's a lot of people who do this. In the non-Jewish world, there's people who do this also. But sometimes both the man and the woman do it willingly over there. Here, this is not what the woman wants. And a lot of times she can't open her mouth and she'll be embarrassed, especially in very insular societies, insular sects of Hasidus, or even insular Haredi communities. Women can't open their mouths. They don't know what to talk to, and they just cry, and they have no recourse to their husband, because their husband's the tzaddik, the Talmud Chacham, someone who's living a life of precious and a tzaddik, and the husband tells them, or she just justifies it to herself that her husband needs it in order to be a tzaddik, and this is my life, my own life, but I'll get olam haba, great olam haba. Do we know who gets more olam haba or not? If he doesn't treat his wife properly, what kind of tzaddik really is he? So, at the end of the day, this is the letter that the Stipler writes. I think he's talking about obviously a case where, she's saying yes, she's married to the guy, but nonetheless he's not doing the proper. He's not doing piyus. He's not even appeasing her, and that's like marrying an Amma Aretz. So he's not a Talmid Chacham. He's an Amma Aretz, like the Gemara in Pesachim says. He's like a lion who beats his wife. Literally, it's the same thing. If you beat your wife, it's an interesting comparison, right? You think of people who physically abuse their wives, right? No one thinks about someone who denies the proper whatever is due to the wife in the bedroom. You don't give her enjoyment to the wife, or you don't even appease her in the bedroom. It's the equivalent. The Gemara equates that to actually physically abusing her. And if it's domestic abuse, that warrants people go to jail for domestic abuse. No one's going to jail for not giving a wife what she's due in the bedroom. But the Gemara equates it to, it's like your domestic abuse, not just even a verbal abuse, domestic abuse. It's like hitting her, which is, a pretty bad husband. So that's the way I'd like to conclude this chapter. That's the way he concludes the chapter, with the letter from the Stipler. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. We'll talk more about this. The next chapter talks about physical piyus, which he really, until now, he's been talking about verbally. Whenever he mentions Piyus, appeasing her, he has to verbally talk to her hard and tell her. I mean, I don't know how much talking really helps. The main thing is the physical. So we'll see what he says about physical Piyus coming up next week in chapter 11. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.